Welcome grade 10s again as we continue with our revision. Still doing the paper from Algebraic cluster. We are going to look at question number 2 now. So under question number 2 we need to factorize. Right, so we are given 2.1.1 t squared multiplied by r minus s minus r plus s for 2 marks. Factorize the expression. Okay, remember that whenever a question of factorize comes, grade 12, grade 10s, you need to think of the following. Every time you have to factorize, the first thing that you need to start with is check if you can take out a common factor. Then if it fails, check if you have grouping. So you check if you can factorize by grouping. This normally happens when you have 4 terms. Right, the third one in grade 10, you should check if you can factorize using a difference of 2 squares. Then the last technique that you learned in grade 9 was factorizing a trinomial. Right, so these are the techniques that you should have learned in grade 9. However, in grade 10, there's 2 more, or rather 1 more. This is difference of 2 cubes. This is one that you learned in grade 10. Then the last one is the sum of 2 cubes. So mind you, for cubes, we both have the sum and difference. However, for squares, we only have the difference. So these are the techniques that need to come into your mind every time a question says you need to factorize grade 10s. So the first question there is factorize again. I'll copy it down quickly. We have there 2.1.1 t squared into r minus s minus r plus s. Right, if I were to multiply this thing out, I would have t squared r minus t squared s minus r plus s. Right, if I were to just multiply these two out, this is what I would get. And already grade 10s, I see that from the 6 techniques that I can use to factorize, definitely can be a common factor, but I see 4 terms, so it means I can use grouping. And to make matters easy, already the first 2 terms have already been grouped for us, so we just need to factorize the second one. And it's a skill to factorize the second one. T squared into r minus s. Right, for this one, we see already we have r minus s, so we are trying to fight to make sure that we also have r minus s. So what happens if we take out the negative? Already, if we take out the negative, we need to make sure that this, when we multiply it back, it becomes negative. Mathematically, the r becomes positive there without the sign. Then now the s, because it's positive but we took out the negative, it becomes negative. Right, ladies and gentlemen, now you will see that we have a common factor. Why is it a common factor? It's a factor that is common to both terms, so it means we can take it out. When we take it out, we are going to have the following: r minus s. When we take it out from this term, we are left with t squared. Then when we take it out from this term, we are left with a negative 1. But now grade 10s, something comes back again. We see what? A difference of 2 squares. Why do we say it's a difference of 2 squares? There's a square, there's a square. A difference means minus. So this can be factorized further to give us r minus s multiplied by t and t. Then the factors of 1, it's 1 and 1. One is positive, the other is negative. And then grade 10s, this is how you fully factorize this expression. Let's look at the next question. 212. Again, still under factorize. So factorize, we think of these 6 techniques. So this time around, we are given 8x cubed minus b cubed. The hint lies in these cubes. So it means somewhere between difference of 2 cubes and sum of 2 cubes. But now, because the question is 8x cubed minus b cubed, this should be a difference of 2 cubes. So 2.1.2, we have 8x cubed minus b cubed. I always like to write this as powers. Rewrite the 8 as a power. This would become 2 cubed x cubed minus b cubed. So the 8 is actually a cubed. This is how you know it is a cubed. Rewriting it as a power, it becomes that. Then how does one always factorize this? If you have x cubed minus b cubed, factorizing this would be a binomial with a trinomial. Then on your binomial, you'll have this exactly as it is without the cubes. So you'll have x minus b. Then the second bracket, you'll have these with squares. The first term and the last term in the second bracket will be these with squares. So it means I'll have x squared and b squared. Then the last term is always positive. Then the middle term will always be the opposite of this one. So if I have a negative here, then I will have a positive here. So now what becomes my middle term? Simply this times this, so it's xb. So let's apply that and do it here. We'll have a binomial with a trinomial. Let's do that again. First bracket, these without cubes. So it means these without cubes. Without cubes, this becomes 2x and b. The sign is the same as the original. Then the second bracket, the first and last term, are these with squares now. So it means it's 2 squared, x squared, and then b squared. Always the last term is positive. Then the middle term is the opposite of the first term or the first bracket. Then I'll have a plus. Then the middle term comes from multiplying these two. So 2x times b, I get 2xb. Then simplifying these three terms will give me 2x minus b multiplied by 2 squared is a 4x squared plus 2xb plus b squared. Right. Then just like that 3 tenths, we have factorized the difference of 2 cubes. For interest's sake, let me just do the sum of 2 cubes quickly. Suppose now it was given to me as a sum. So as a sum, again, it therefore means I would have 2 cubed x cubed plus b cubed. So now factorizing this, I will have almost the same thing as the last. I will have this without squares, without cubes, which means it's 2x plus b, exactly as it is. The first term and the last term squared here. So I'll have 2 squared x squared b squared, always positive. Now you swap the sign, plus this becomes minus, and then you multiply these two, 2xb. Then this is how you factorize the sum of 2 cubes. Okay, moving right along. Let's simplify further. Now we have fractions. Simplifying these fractions, we have 2x plus 1 divided by 3 minus 4x minus 1 divided by 7 plus 1. Okay. 2x plus 1 divided by 3 minus 4x minus 1 divided by 7 plus 1. Okay, grade 9 tells you that you cannot add or subtract fractions if the denominators are not the same. Let us always remember that this one is a rational number, therefore can be written over 1. So the idea is to find the lowest common denominator. And how does one get there? Look at the multiples. We are going to look at multiples, which will lead us to the LCD. Multiples of 3, that's 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, and so forth. Let's look at the multiples of 7. Those of 7 will involve 7, 14, 21, 28, and so forth. So the lowest that is common to both of them, that becomes our LCD. So if I can check the lowest, I have 21 here, I also have 21 here. So our LCD is actually going to be 21. Therefore, LCD is 21. What does this mean, grade 10s? It means I'm going to make sure that all the denominators are 21 before I can add them. So now, looking at 2x plus 1 divided by 3. I see already here my denominator is a 3, but I want it to be a 21. So what do I need to multiply this by to give me a 21? I need to multiply it by 7. So whatever you do, you actually multiply this number by 1. So 7 divided by 7. Then I go to the second term. The second term I have negative 4x minus 1 divided by that, minus minus 4x minus 1 divided by 7. Grade 10s, I see I have a 7, but I want it to become a 21. So what do I multiply the 7 by to make it 21? I multiply it by 3. Again, it's going to be 3 divided by 3. Then I go to the last term. The last term is simply a 1 plus a 1 divided by 1, 1. To make it 27, to make it 21, I multiply it by 21 divided by 21. Again, like I said, multiplication goes across numerators and across denominators. So doing that, I'll have the following grade 10s. 7 multiplied by 2x plus 1. Everything is divided by 7 times 3, which is 21, minus 3. This 3 is multiplied by this binomial, which is 4x minus 1 divided by 21, plus 21 times 21, 21 times 1 divided by 21 times 1, which is 21. Right. Of course, there are brackets. I need to remove them by multiplication. Removing my brackets by multiplication, I'll have the following. Distribute the 7 inside, distribute the 3 inside. So 7 times 2x, positive times positive is a positive. Then I'll have 7 times 2x, which is 14x, plus 7. Then now I'm going to distribute this negative 3 inside. This negative 3 out inside. Then I will have negative times a positive, which gives me a negative. Then 3 times 4x, it's 12x. Then this negative times this negative right here, which gives me a positive. And then 3 times 1, it's 3. Then I add this 21. Everything is divided by 21 because the denominators are the same, so you keep the same denominator. Again, once you have removed brackets, chances are you are going to have to deal with like terms. So I have here 14x minus 12x. Then everything else without a variable is a like term. Right. So now 14 minus 2, 14 minus 12, we get a 2x. And then we'll have 7 plus 3, giving us a 10 plus 21, giving us a positive 31. Then everything is divided by 21. Right, great tens. That is straightforward, no problems. Let's look at the second one. Question number 2. Simplify still. So if you have to simplify that one now, you need to be careful because there's two operations which are inverses of each other, division and multiplication. Interesting one. The question is as follows: x squared minus x minus 2, everything is divided by x squared, minus 9 divided by x squared minus 4 divided by x squared plus 3x multiplied by x squared plus 4x plus 4, everything is divided by x squared plus x. Right, grade 10s, this seems as if it's a very challenging problem, and it's not. So the idea is to simplify. You consider all the techniques that you know. Right, if I were to close everything else and focus on this numerator, I see I have a trinomial. What can I do with this trinomial? Simplify. So it means I can factorize. And again, whenever I want to factorize, I'm going to look at common factor, grouping, difference of two squares, trinomial, difference of two cubes, sum of two cubes. Right, so I'm going to check which one of it is this. I see it's a trinomial, so let me factorize the trinomial. Factorizing the trinomial, I know I need to have two brackets. Factors of x squared is x and x. Factors of 2 that are going to give us 1 is definitely 2 and 1. The last sign is negative, which means the brackets are going to be different. One is positive, the other is negative. How do I decide? The bigger factor between these two, always take the sign of the middle term. So it means 2 will be negative. Then mathematically this becomes positive. Then I go to my denominator. Treat it individually. Again, if I close everything, I focus on the denominator. I see two terms which are separated by a minus. A difference comes into my mind now. So it means it's a difference of two squares or a difference of two cubes. In this case, it's squares. So factorizing a difference of two squares will give me vectors of x squared, it's x and x, of 9, it's 3 and 3. Again, I know one is positive, the other is negative. Now, grade 10s, whenever you have a fraction divided by another fraction, you keep the first fraction as it is, which is this one. Change this division to multiplication, but take the reciprocal of this one. So it means numerator becomes denominator and denominator becomes numerator. This goes down, this goes up. So as this goes up, I'm going to check two terms, then two terms, I see a common factor. So factorize, common factor is there. When I take out the common factor here, which is x, I'm left with x plus 3. Divide by, I go to the numerator. This numerator is a difference of two squares. I factorize it exactly the same way as this one. X and x, 2 and 2. One is positive, the other is negative. Then multiply. Then multiplied by, this is a perfect trinomial. Therefore, it will be x and x. Factors of 4, that will give me 4, it's 2 and 2. But now the last sign is positive, which tells me that these brackets are going to be the same, or going to be the same, either both positive or both negative. How do I decide? I look at the middle term, it's positive, so it means both must be positive. I go to the last, which is this one. I see a common factor. Take out an x, I'm left with x plus 1. Right, grade 10s. I see there's multiplication throughout. Since there's multiplication, it means I can perform my multiplication going across numerators, going across denominators. If I do that, there's one way to do it. I can just cancel here, but I like to just do it, multiply, and then I can see how things cancel out nicely. Let me start with this x because it's the only term outside. So I will have an x, which is multiplied by this bracket, x plus 1 multiplied by x minus 2. Now multiplied by x plus 3 multiplied by these 2, x plus 2, x plus 2. That's my numerators multiplied together. I go and do my denominators multiplied together. Again, I start with this x outside, x into this bracket, x minus 3, x plus 3, x plus 2, x minus 2, then now x plus 1. Okay, so I see now there is no addition or division, subtraction in between these brackets. So it means anything that appears on the numerator and denominator exactly as it is, it can cancel out. So what cancels out in this case? Firstly, this x with this x, they cancel out nicely. Then I go to x plus 1. I see here's an x plus 1. It cancels with this x plus 1 right here. I go to x minus 2. I see an x minus 2 here with this x minus 2 right here. I have an x plus 3. This x plus 3 cancels with this x plus 3 right here. Then I have an x plus 2. This x plus 2 cancels out with this x plus 2. Now what am I left with on the numerator? X plus 2, but I don't see it on the denominator, so that's what's left on the numerator. I will have it down as it is. On the numerator, I'm left with x plus 2. Then I go to the denominator, nothing cancels with this one, so I'm left with x minus 3. Then that's about it. 15 marks just like that. Grade 10s. I hope this was very informative. Let me see you again in the next one. Please like, share, subscribe, and forward it to everybody. If you have any questions, please post your questions on the comments. I'm going to be checking them and make sure that I get back to you. Yes, that will be all for now. See you again in the next one. Bye.